Welcome back from the break, and you are watching Geo Islam, Payare Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ki pyari baatein. So before the break, in Payare Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ki pyari baatein, we narrated this hadith, we explained this, we seen that what is niyyah and what are the actions of the heart, and how niyyah is very important on what your deed is. Your niyyah also matters. So of course a good deed should also be there, and then you should also have the niyyah to perform that good deed, that it is only and solely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we see in the hadith. Now, as Imam al-Ahmad said, that there are three hadiths which Islam revolves around. If we see hadith number 1, it talks about, of course, the actions of the heart. What is on niyyah? Now, niyyah, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is on niyyah, as it is said in Surah Al-Mulk, وَأَسِرُّوا قَوْلَكُمْ أَوْ اجْهَرُوا بِهِ. If you keep your secret or you disclose it, Allah knows what is in the heart. Allah knows what is on niyyah. And again it is said in the 6th hadith that indeed there is a clump of flesh in the body. If it is sound, the whole body is sound, and if it is corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. Ala wahi al-qalb. Indeed, it is the heart. Beware, it is the heart. Behold, it is the heart. Now, the first hadith, as it tells about the actions of the heart, the 5th hadith tells about the actions of the limbs, which is about bid'ah. من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد. Now, and the 6th hadith tells about the purification of heart. The purification of heart, how to purify the heart. And again, the 7th hadith, which is narrated in Abu Dawood's statement, that is about nasiha, and nasiha is a very broad concept. It cannot be traced in English, so we will inshallah cover that in the next upcoming programs in the future. There are three things in Islam which most fuqaha consider which are very bad, and they are lethal to the fundamentals of Islam. If they are there, it will be totally lethal and it can totally perish the knowledge of Islam. First of all, there is shirk, because that is the biggest sin ever, associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a very bad sin, and Allah will not forgive that sin. That is a major sin. And of course there are types of shirk al-akbar and shirk al-asghar, but whether it be shirk al-asghar, whether it be shirk al-akbar, shirk is shirk and it will not be forgiven. Another big sin is bid'ah. Now, if we see, I told that hadith number 1 and hadith number 5, they are, having this connection together. Hadith number 1, as I told, had, the internal actions, the actions of the heart. Hadith number 5, the actions of the limbs, the external actions. Now, hadith number 5 was, which is, of course, that is bid'at. Now, bid'at, that name gives you the idea that something wrong is there. Now, bid'ah is innovation. And of course, man ahdatha fi amrina hadha ma laysa minhu fahuwa raddun. Whoever innovates in our religion, in this affair of ours, that is, he's not from one of us, not from us. That is to be rejected. That bid'ah, and of course somebody thinks that he's doing good and he will not quit the bid'ah forever. Like I will pray 6 rak'ah in I'll pray 6 rak'ah in Salat Zuhr, or I will pray I will have the 6th namaz in midnight. So that is, he thinks he's doing good, he's praying more extra, but then that is not the time, and that is not the place, and that is not the type, and that is not the way, and that is not the quantity. So that's why it always happens. So that is again bid'ah, which is very disliked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the third action which has been mentioned over here is showing off. The actions of the heart is mattering more than the actions of the limbs, because that niyyah, that intention will, there are different intentions. So if he is playing for the ajr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to go in Jannah, that is a good intention. But if somebody has a bad intention, like Imam al-Harawi said, There are 7 types of self-desire, and they are test to be glorified by others, to praised by others, to avoid being blamed by others, to seek the wealth and money of others, to seek the love and services of others, and much, much more. So of course we know these types of self-desires, and of course that is one of our very big sins, and that's why we should always have a good intention before doing a good deed. Of course that's why we should always intend that it is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before we start namaz. And now, being a Muslim, as it is, being a Muslim, we have, of course, to fulfill obligations. That's why, of course, these 5 pillars of Islam, as said in the third hadith, inshallah, we'll cover. Buni al-Islamu ala khamsin. I'll just narrate the whole one. Buni al-Islamu ala khamsin. Shahadati Allah ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah. وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وحج البيت وصوم رمضان. رواه البخاري ومسلم. Now, what is this narrated? Is narrated by it is narrated that indeed Bunya al-Islamu ala khams. Islam is built upon 5 pillars. Shahada, that to bear witness that there is no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Muhammad is his messenger, and to pray salah, and to do zakah, to fast the whole Ramadan, and then hajjil bayt, and that is to hajjil bayt, which is to do hajj and then fast Ramadan, which is the 5 pillars of Islam. Now, let's go to the first pillar, Shahada. Of course, we have to take Shahada before, and if there is somebody who is taking Shahada, different intention, to seek the ajr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that might happen. Or if somebody, who knows, he is seeking it for, wedding, أو امرأته يتزوجها أو ينكحها أو دنيا, أو for something which he gains, some worldly thing he might gain. لدنيا يصيبها. So this is another type of show-off, or if he can say to seek the praises of others, to seek the glorification of others. People say, wow, he is accepting Shahada, wow. And then that is another type of show-off if he is intending that somebody might glorify him or praise him or applaud him. Now, of course, the second pillar is Salah, and we have to pray after the age of 10. Salah 5 times a day, it becomes mandatory, obligatory, fard. That is a fard, that we have to do it. Of course, that is totally fard, that we have to pray 5 Salah a day. Fajr, Zohar, Asr, Maghrib and Isha. So, of course, now if we see, we have to intend before starting the namaz that this is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is of course for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now of course it is said, some people, they intended that people might do not blame others, like somebody blames somebody, so to avoid the blameness of others, so nobody can blame them. Yeah, to just say that he's very pious, we are going to give any services to him. That is again to seek the services of others. Now, I told this that because this has been happening many times, so that's why we should always intend for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes 2 things, which are fawailul lil musallin, that woe, curse, woe to the prayer, woe to those people who pray prayers. Now why? الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Now this also comes from sajda, his sahv, sahun, were heedless. الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاوْنَ. Those people who show off. Again, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes in salah. That's why. So we should always intend for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now in zakah, that is, of course, this happens more these days, now and on, that somebody is donating and somebody is giving zakah to poor people just for making a name in the community. Again, in somebody you fast so much just for, saying that, oh my God, he's fasting, what a good person, what a good character. Again, this is for show off. If he intends it, that is for show off. And that will be, again, as it said in another surah, that on that day, these deeds, these show off deeds, will be thrown away like dust. Now, again, for Hajj, of course, everybody goes to Hajj if he can afford it. But what if somebody is going to Hajj for, making a name that he has done Hajj, wow, and then that is again uploading pictures on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everything, so that is again an idea that people might praise him. Okay, that is, show off has been very common, so we should always intend that this is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if we don't intend, those deeds are useless, and it's better not to do these deeds than intending such a bad thing. We should always intend before doing any good deed, this is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this hadith, we discussed about niyyah, the actions of the limbs, the action of the heart, purification of the heart, and of course we also talked about the types of self-desires. Why is show off such a thing which is frowned upon in Islam, and about this hadith that it is really action judged by intentions. So this is all for today. In the next program, we will talk about Islam, Iman, Ihsan and Qadar, and the adab, the ethics, the manners of questioning, and how questioning is so good. Innama shifa'ul sawal. This will be talked about in the next hadith number 2, which is also narrated by Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So of course I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the power to attain and obtain the knowledge to whatever we have learned today, and also the power to act on this, to do amal on this. And again, He has guided us. وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا. Now if we see, it is said in Surah Duha, and then he brought us from minas zulumati ila nur, like it said in Surah Talaq, minas zulumati ila nur. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided us when we were lost, and He brought us to the Sirat Mustaqim. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He also puts us in Jannah. He gives us, like it said in Surah Waqia, وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ, that those are the closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Makes us from the muqarrabun, He makes us from as-sabiqun, makes us from the ashabi yamin. رَبَّنَا أَتْمِمْ لَنَا نُورَنَا وَاغْفِرْ لَنَا إِنَّكَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ رَبَّنَا لَا تَجْعَلْنَا فِتْنَةً لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَاغْفِرْ لَنَا رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ رَبَّنَا إِلَيْكَ توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.